Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. Jayanilo Premadhana Karuna Pracho Jayanilo Premadhana Karuna Pracho Jayanilo Premadhana Karuna Pracho Pracho Hena Prabhu Kota Gela Chaja Thakur Na Prabhu Kota Gela Achaja Thakur Hena Prabhu Kota Gela Achaja Thakur Kaha mora swarup rupa Kaha sanata Kaha Dasharagunata Patita Pavan Dasharagunata Patita Pavan Kaha mora bhata juga Kaha kavira Eka kale kota gela goranatara Eka kale kota Shiva. Goranga gunera nide kota kele pabo. Saba Shangira Sangi Je Koilo Bila Shangana Paya Kande Narotama Je Anilo Premadhana Karuna Prachu Anilo Premadhana Je Anilo Premadhana Karuna Prachu Anila Premadana Karuna Prachu Hena Prabhu Kota Gela Achaja Thakur Hena Prabhu Hena Prabhu Kota Gela Achaja Thakur Na Prabhu Kota Gela Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Jaya Vaishnava Thakur. Jaya Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Jai Om Vishnupad Brahmamsa Parivrajacharya Stuttarashata Shishima Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajikacharya Tarajata Shishima Bhaktisiddhanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhu. Actually, I'm just realizing I'm not even supposed to drink. So today we're not going to read Srimad Bhagavatam, we just speak about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. And we can chant Mangala Charan before we start. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitang Yena Bhutale Swayang Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurung Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatang Vitang Tvang Sajivam Sadvaitang Savadutang Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Ti Namine Shivarshabhani Videvi Daita Kripapte Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhave Namaha Madhurya Chala Premadya Shirupanuga Bhaktida Shigaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namosute. Namaste Gauravani Shrimurtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruta Apasiddhanta Dvantaharine. Hare Krishna. So today is the auspicious disappearance day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Auspicious in Krishna consciousness, even for a pure devotee. That disappearance is also auspicious. Not only the appearance, but also the disappearance is an auspicious day. So we observe, we celebrate, especially by speaking about the glories of that personality, by remembering that personality. And because that personality is a spiritual personality, we can associate with him. even today, and especially by hearing about his teachings, by hearing his words. So we're going to read some of his direct words today, and before that we just give some general background about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So he disappeared in 1937. This was the 1st January, and today it falls in December. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was the son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, another great acharya in our line. And I was just reading a biography of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, or I'm still reading, and by understanding Bhaktivinoda Thakur, naturally we also understand Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur better. Because in a way the reason why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur appeared is because Bhaktivinoda Thakur asked for him to come. In that book I'm reading now, it's a biography, so that is not mentioned, because that book I'm reading is written by a devotee, but he purposefully, he wanted to write a biography. A biography means it's based on facts that you can prove. And usually what we often read is called a haxiography, something like that. Means if you, in a tradition, you speak about a holy person and you basically glorify the holiness of that person, not in a completely scientific approach of bringing facts, but in sometimes using all kinds of glorifications. So there was no mention of the story how Bhaktisiddhanta was called by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but we know, even Prabhupada, he tells the story that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was preaching, but he was very much alone, and he was praying to Krishna, please send me help, send me some qualified men to help me spread the message. And then in Puri, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was traveling a lot in his life, but at that time he was stationed in Jagannath Puri as a magistrate, and there Bhaktisiddhanta, as they called him Bimal Prasad, appeared. And Srila Prabhupada, he tells the story how when the Jagannath Rath Yatra was going on, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house was just next to that main road, and the Rath would start, and at some point it would stop in front of the house and it would not move anymore. And the mother of Bhaktisiddhanta, the wife of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, she thought, let's go and take blessings for this young son. And she brought Bimal, and when she brought him in front of Jagannath, the garland fell down on his head, around his shoulders. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he heard that, he took it as a confirmation that this is the son that I was praying for. He is the direct mercy of Jagannath, and he's here to help me. So there's many things we could speak about. There's a lot of information available. Srila Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, he wrote 3 volumes about Bhaktisiddhanta, explaining his life, his teachings. And we could approach it from different perspectives. We could look at it from a perspective how Srila Prabhupada interacted with Bhaktisiddhanta. That would be interesting. How did he associate with him? What kind of exchanges? But I thought that we can maybe explain a little bit the pranam mantra, which I just chanted, of Bhaktisiddhanta, because there we get a lot of information about who Bhaktisiddhanta is. And it's nice to learn these mantras by heart. So I'm gonna again start from the beginning with the pranam. You can see this pranam has actually, it's longer than Prabhupada's pranam. Srila Prabhupada's pranam has 2 parts and Bhaktisiddhanta's has 4 parts. And there's actually many more pranam mantras and prayers which many of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's senior disciples, they wrote. Because he had many exalted personalities who were there and they could glorify him in Sanskrit verses. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine. I offer my obeisances to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who has taken refuge at the feet of Vishnu and who is very dear to Krishna in this world. One time I was in Mayapur in a Gaudiya Math, and I was speaking to one Gaudiya Math devotee, and he argued that in our ISKCON, what's the pranam of Rohini Sutta, Prabhu?
You want me to say?
Mm-hmm. So also 2 parts, and the first part same. What's the pranam, the first pranam of your Guru Maharaj? So this devotee was getting in an argument with me, saying that it's improper to use that for other personalities, that this is especially meant for Bhaktisiddhanta. And it's a fact that this pranam was first used. I don't know who composed it, but that argument in Gaudiya Math, as far as I understood from what he said, nobody is allowed to use that after Bhaktisiddhanta. Just thought to mention that, of course, in our line we believe that our spiritual masters have also taken shelter at the lotus feet of Vishnu. They are also dear to Krishna. But in Gaudiya Math they give a special position to Bhaktisiddhanta in that sense. So that introduces Bhaktisiddhanta, and the second pranam goes like this: Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daitai Kripaptaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhave Namaha. Who knows what Varshabhanavi means? Vrishabhanu, Nandini, the daughter of Vrishabhanu. So it refers to Srimati Radharani, and the translation of this verse goes as follows: I offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Varshabhanavi Devi Daitai Das, is another name of Bhaktisiddhanta, who is favored by Srimati Radharani and who is the ocean of transcendental mercy and the deliverer of the signs of Krishna. There could be many things said, many things are explained about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's esoteric identity, but I'm not going to speak much about it. But basically, there is a clear understanding that Bhaktisiddhanta is a manjari in the spiritual world, and in that sense most intimate associate, personal associate of Srimati Radharani. And therefore he's called Varshabhanavi Devi Daita, meaning very dear to Radharani. And he's the personal servant. And here it says he's the deliverer of signs of Krishna and he's an ocean of transcendental mercy. I read the next one. Madhurya Jvala Premadya Shri Rupa Nuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, the personified energy of Sri Chaitanya's mercy, who deliver devotional service which is enriched with conjugal love of Radha and Krishna, coming exactly in the line of revelation of Srila Rupa Goswami. So that point comes out that Bhaktisiddhanta, he is delivering with that which comes in line of Mahaprabhu and then especially Rupa Goswami, and therefore he also himself has to be on that platform. He cannot give something that he doesn't have. It's said bhakti da means to give, and he gives bhakti, and it's specified what kind of bhakti, because there is many different kinds of bhakti. There is Jnana Mishra Bhakti, Karma Mishra Bhakti, meaning bhakti which is mixed with karma, bhakti which is mixed with jnana. Then there is Shuddha Bhakti, pure bhakti, where the only focus is to please Krishna. But then there is also many differences. There is what's the word? What's the word for opulence? Aishwarya Bhakti. But here it said Madhurya Bhakti. Madhurya Uchvala. Uchvala means the highest. Premadya and Prema Bhakti. Not just some lower stage, but the highest stage of Prema in the mood of conjugal love. Following in the line of Rupa Goswami, meaning in the mood of a Manjari. So that's what he gave. And therefore he is Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namosute. He came what Mahaprabhu himself wanted to distribute, and therefore he is directly empowered by Mahaprabhu to do so. And then the last mantra, Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruddha Apasiddhanta Tvanta Harine. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you who are the personified teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So again, he's empowered, and he's actually an embodiment of Lord Chaitanya's teachings. So whatever he is in his existence, that's based on the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. You are the deliverer of the fallen souls. You do not tolerate any statement which is against the teachings of devotional service enunciated by Srila Rupa Goswami. The specific word here is Rupanuga Viruddha Apasiddhanta Dvanta Harine, that he, and we will hear now from him personally how he was preaching, he was famous for being uncompromising in presenting Krishna consciousness. And he would destroy all apasiddhantas, all kinds of teachings which are actually not in line with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. So I'm going to read to you from The Harmonist. The Harmonist is a magazine which Bhaktisiddhanta published starting in 1927. So actually 10 years before he left. And he continued a magazine which was started by Bhakti Vinod Thakur, which is called Sajjana Toshani. That was in Bengal, and he then started the first English Krishna Conscious magazine. And I'm going to read here from his first, the foreword, what he's now introducing this new harmonist. The harmonist, as preacher of God's word, has to be endowed with the requisite qualities. Her high mission is to please all living beings by conveying to them the divine message in the fitting manner. Her object is emphatically not to create rupture, but to bring about harmony. So the harmonist, no? Harmony means that we all live happily and peaceful together. And Bhaktisiddhanta says that's the purpose of this magazine, to bring harmony in the world.
And why her?
Because he refers to the harmonist as a female. He explains that a little before, but I thought it's gonna be a little confusing. But yeah, he says her. So the harmonist, the magazine, is a Mataji. And now he says, this constitutes the vital difference between her, the harmonist, and the elevationist or the salvationist. Bhaktisiddhanta is using, we have to think that Bhaktivinoda Thakur was already speaking in English language, but Bhaktisiddhanta especially, he targeted the English audience. So he had to translate many terms from the Vedic philosophy into the English language. And these two terms, elevationist or salvationist, what does it, which two personalities does it describe? No, there is the Bhakta, then there is the... Yeah, and what... So basically the elevation is to elevate, no? Who tries to elevate in this world? In the Vedas there is one part of the karma kanda. So the karmis, they try to elevate themselves by acting piously to go up. So he calls them the elevationists. And the salvationists, who are they? The jnanis. Because the jnanis try to get free. Nice, no? How he chooses this word. Both of the latter fail to satisfy the hankering of the soul because they only offer or withhold the things of the world. And this gives a little bit a hint what's going to follow in the next few pages, because he's going to smash all these ideas. And over the whole history of the harmonists, that has been, Appasiddhanta Dvanta Harine, to destroy all kinds of theories which are not beneficial ultimately to the living entity. And in the end of this foreword, he again clearly gives a warning to the audience, to those who read this newspaper. He says, it is necessary at the outset means in the beginning, before you enter into something. So we mentioned it before you enter into the room. To caution the reader against the theory of vox populi, vox Dei. That's a Latin phrase. Vox means the opinion, and populi means what's popular, meaning the mass. Yeah. And Dei means God. The harmonist has nothing to do with vox populi. So it doesn't have anything to do what people usually consider to be good or bad. Her only concern is with vox Dei. Only what God considers as good, that we will be writing in here. It is the voice of God alone that will find utterance in these pages. Then he's writing the first article entitled The Gaudiya Math, Its Message and Activities. The Gaudiya Math is the temple, the institution which he founded. And so he starts very basically about the Vaishnav philosophy. And he says something very interesting. Please listen carefully. The truth, satya, is propagated in a twofold way. Positively, or by the method of direct support, and negatively, or by the method of opposition. The truth cannot be made sufficiently known by the positive method alone. Propaganda by the method of opposition, more than the presentation of the positive aspect, brings about more brilliantly in this world the appearance and glorification of the truth. And now he gives some example so that we can understand what he means by that. In the Satya Yuga, Hiranyakashipu, more than Prahlad, by the adoption of the method of negative propaganda, proclaimed greatly the glory of Nrsimhadev. So he's saying here that actually Hiranyakashipu did a greater service in spreading Krishna consciousness than Prahlad. And he's saying Prahlad, he did the positive preaching, and Hiranyakashipu did the negative preaching. He gives more examples. In the Treta Yuga, Ravana, more than Hanuman, proclaimed the greatness of Sri Ramachandra to the world. In Dwapar, more than Pandava, Yadava and other devotees, Kamsa, Charasanda, Shishupal and the rest as antagonists proclaimed the greatness of Sri Krishna. In the Kali Yuga, Jagai, Madai, Chandkasi, Prakashananda Saraswati, the professor of Mayavad, Ramchandra Khan, the hater of Vishnu and Vaishnavas, Ramchandra Puri, and in after times the various hypocrite sects, more than the Bhaktas of Gaur, have proclaimed the greatness of Gaur and Nityananda to the world by adopting the hostile method. What do you think about this? Srila Prabhupada followed in that mood, and during the time of Srila Prabhupada there was not seldom some attack by the public on the Hare Krishna movement. And sometimes there would be articles in the newspaper where they would speak about the devotees in a very negative way. And sometimes Prabhupada would ask, how much do they mention the word? Actually that was Bhaktisiddhanta, but he said it's okay, no problem, because at least they mentioned the word Krishna. So everybody will benefit. So he's saying that even though they're trying to speak negatively about Krishna consciousness, by them writing a newspaper article and so many, just hearing the word Krishna once, it's more beneficial and it's good. It's a good propaganda. So this is something we can often not really understand. And we will hear a little bit more what it needs that somebody comes to that platform. Means you need to have a clear understanding about the nature of the holy name and have full faith how it works. And then he says the truth is in all ages propagated in this way by the positive and negative methods. The true message of the Sri Gaudiya Math has spread and is spreading in the world in this manner. So why is he saying that? Because Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was, and Prabhupada writes this in one of his purports, that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he took so much trouble to fight against Apasiddhantas. And we know from his biography there was many people who tried to kill him and tried to disempower him. But Bhaktisiddhanta, he saw that as his mission. And he points out that he had actually faith that by doing that and even agitating so-called non-devotees who didn't like it, that will also be beneficial for the propagation of Krishna consciousness. Then here he continues a little later. The Gaudiya Math, Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Mai Ki Jai, Shishi Gornitai Ki Jai, The Gaudiya Math is not desirous of the welfare or non-welfare of the world like other benefit or mischief-making societies. The Gaudiya Math does not do work that is beneficial or harmful in terms of worldly enjoyments. The Gaudiya Math is neither affectionate nor cruel like a worldly mother, neither protector nor destroyer like a worldly father, neither helper nor enemy like a worldly brother. It will be clarified a little later, but he's saying that the Gaudiya Math is not an institution meant to give material benefit to people. Like we have many institutions in this world, they try to help people physically, emotionally, but the Gaudiya Math is not meant to do that. That's not the purpose of the Gaudiya Math. Then he continues, there need be no want of harmony between the Gaudiya Math and the whole world, as the only disharmony is caused by one little word. The Gaudiya Math says that harmony between itself and the whole world can be established by means of one word, that the duty of all jivas consists in the exclusive service of the Adokshaja, the transcendent. The majority of the people of this world says that the service of the Akshaja, the phenomenal, is the duty of everyone of the jivas. Bhaktisiddhanta here explains that it's about serving God, and if you serve God, then there can be harmony. But if that's not the case, then even though you're the most munificent person, but you're actually not in harmony. And now he points out quite clearly what he's referring to when he says the service to the Akshaja. And please listen carefully. I think it's really interesting how it also shows to what kind of audience Bhaktisiddhanta was preaching. The body is pleased by the... Can you give an example? Sleeping. Oversleeping. What else? Eating. Maybe sex life? No. Listen what he says. I had to read it 2 times, 3 times before I understood what he wants to say. The body is pleased by the enjoyment of free air, by gazing at the open sky. The troublesome mind is gratified if it is allowed to roam at will like an unbridled horse, to revel in the beauties of nature, together as it lists honey from the many-tinted flowerage of the groves of poesy. He's referring to a material enjoyment which is very sattvic. He's saying, no, those who take pleasure in poesy, who take pleasure in nature, who take pleasure in mental speculation, who enjoy the freedom of the environment. And this shows to what kind of audience Bhaktisiddhanta was preaching, because we have to understand historically, he's writing an English newspaper in Bengal during a time where, to some they say, that city could compare to any other city in the world, because you had the British there, and the combination of the British with the very pious Bengali background created a class of extremely qualified people, high class people. And Calcutta, even nowadays still you can find some, but that time you had such aristocratic people that I remember Somebody told me that Shivaram Maharaj once asked Bhakti Charu Maharaj, please can you bring me to some real Bengali aristocratic people that we always hear from in the scriptures. And so he brought him to some family and he was really impressed. Just the level of culture that can be actually manifested in the world, how they interact with people, how behaved they are, how they serve prasadam, the kind of consciousness they manifest. So he's preaching to these kind of people. But Appasiddhanta Dvantaharine, he has to somehow or other make them understand that no matter how learned you are, it's all nonsense. So I'm going to continue here. So that was just the introduction. He's going to become more strong now. Preventing floods and famines, nursing the sick, pleasing or displeasing anybody, or stultifying the faculty of consciousness of anyone, every one of these is an instance of harm-producing kindness. Man cannot understand it till he realizes his true position. So all these welfare activities, he's saying, they're actually not good. But he points out that nobody will be able to understand as long as you are not on the spiritual platform. Man cannot understand it till he realizes his true position. He continues, by such acts the jiva is not really benefited. Cutting the root of misery is doing real good to others. The treatment that allows the gangrene of sensual desires to remain does no real good to the patient. Neither is it a proof of great wisdom out of spite to the gangrene of sensual desires to hang the sick man holding out the prospect of annihilation as complete and permanent cure. His language is quite... So I think you got the point. He's saying that all of you who do welfare activities in this world, you're actually doing harm. That was the mood of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, uncompromising. For him there was only one true beneficial thing in this world, and that's Krishna consciousness. And now he continues, he's going in a direction to explain what is actually the goal of life. Most people of the world, forgetful of their own home, under the spell of the enchantress, are running headlong in the opposite direction. In this performance, again, their intoxication, eagerness, concentration, and firm determination are so intense that they have indeed very little opportunity to think about home. What is he referring to, home? The spiritual world, yeah. So he's making now the point that actually we don't belong, because we don't belong to this place, no matter what we do, even if we try to make it perfect, it's only going to create a havoc, because we don't belong here. And he's saying, as long as I don't turn and walk home, and I walk in this direction by doing welfare activities and all kinds of, it's going to be harmful to me, because it will take my attention away from my goal, my real aim. He continues, but the voice of the Gaudiya Math, the flying red-tinted banner of the Gaudiya Math, meaning like a banner, not a flag, a banner which sometimes in a procession. So the red-tinted banner of the Gaudiya Math, meaning that which is really proclaiming something, arresting the ear and the eye of all persons, that which really is loud. No, everybody should hear what we are here for. Is ever proclaim, say Krishna, come along. This is the only alms we beg. And now, back to God and back to home is the message of Gaudiya Mat. Now we know where Prabhupada took the title for his Back to Home, Back to Godhead. It's coming from the first article of the Harmonist, where Bhaktisiddhanta, he puts that phrase, back to God, back to home. And that shows how Prabhupada, he really took the mood of Bhaktisiddhanta. That's the mood of Bhaktisiddhanta. He only wanted to bring people back to the spiritual world. And he said, all we do is only successful and will be successful if we only bring one spirit soul to the spiritual world. But unless we do that, everything is not, there is no success at all. I'm going to continue a little longer. We not yet finished, but we are fasting, so I think we should take the time to read the article to the end. The current that, I'm not reading the full article, I just read some excerpts which I find stand out. The current that is sweeping the world, the flood on which it is adrift, the famine by which it is distressed, the want, fear, sorrow, delusion by which it is mastered, oppressed, and tortured, can be prevented, can be pulled up by the root by the method of moving homeward, of self-surrender at the holy feet of the sorrowless and fearless Amrita. This reminded me of how Srila Prabhupada, when he saw Bhaktisiddhanta the first time, that's what he heard from him in the similar mood. No, Prabhupada said, but we have to become free. We are suffering being under the control of the British. And Bhaktisiddhanta, he replied in that mood, no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're having a famine, if you're having a flood. As long as you just move homeward, that's the solution. So long as we shall stay in the foreign land, the greater the distance and the speed with which we shall continue to run towards foreign lands and away from the direction of home, so long and to the same extent, sorrow, fear, and delusion will not leave us. They will, on the contrary, mock us like the delusive deer by their further and steady increase. Same point again, even if we have the greatest calamities, we have a war. You can use all your energy to take care to solve that war. But that's not the mood of Bhaktisiddhanta. He says, then you're still going to run towards the foreign land. But what you should do is turn around. Go towards home. And that will solve all your problems. And if you try to solve the problems here, it means you move away from home. You cannot do both at the same time. You have to make a decision. Do I want to go home? Or do I want to move away from home? Once the world is fairly embarked on the high tide of the holy name, the insignificant worldly flood retires forthwith. If the alms in the shape of the glorification of the songs of Hari become easily procurable, the little famines will leave us for good as a mere attendant result. With the appearance, you heard what he said? He said, when we actually chant, the whole world would chant, there would be no problems in the world. And this will just be a side product. It's not that we want to be free from it, but by us doing the chanting, the problems will go away. And this is confirmed, by the way, in the Shastra. This week I went to a school program and I was invited to speak about Diwali. And I read a little bit of Ramachandra in the Bhagavatam. And there it's clearly said, when Ramachandra was here, there was no problem. Not only no problem, there was no death, there was no disease, there was no old age. It said, I can show you. No old age, nothing, no disease. Why? Because wherever there is God, there cannot be any miseries. And he's saying wherever there is the holy name, there cannot be any miseries. With the appearance of sorrow, delusion, fear-killing bhakti, devotional faith, avidya, the root of every form of misery of the jiva, is destroyed and the soul is well satisfied. But now he points out, to have faith in the holy name is so very rare that we may leave it out of consideration. So he's glorifying the holy name, but now he's saying actually we can forget about it because it's so rare that you find a person who actually has full faith in the holy name. If we had faith even in namabhas means chanting the name in a clearing stage, the most dimly perceived name, we would have never said that succoring the victims of floods is better than kirtan and prachar, singing and preaching God. If we actually chant namabhas, if we get a glimpse of what the holy name is, then we would agree to what he says. But this is the condition. As long as we are not chanting namabhas, we will always feel we don't get a glimpse of what chanting actually really does, how powerful it is. And we always will have attachment and faith in all these worldly duties and activities. But as soon as we get the glimpse, and Nambas is like if you see the sun ray in the morning underneath the horizon, as soon as you see that, you know, wow, something really powerful is going to come up here, something really bright. So Namabhas is like that. You get a glimpse of what the holy name actually is, and you can start to perceive. And you can feel that it takes away all your ignorance. No? It's already like here, when the sun comes, it becomes bright. In the same way, the Namabhas, the holy name will start to dissipate the darkness in your heart, and you can actually see. Freeing the country from famines, opening of hospitals are better than preaching devotion to God. So he's not saying that that's the case. He's saying, I read the whole sentence again. If we had faith even in Nambas, we would have never said that securing the victims of floods is better than kirtan and prachar, singing and preaching God. Freeing the country from famines, opening of hospitals are better than preaching devotion to God. He's saying, no, you will understand that's not the case. And now, listen, hundreds of famines can be got rid of not by namabhas but even by namaparad, offensive taking of the name. The mukti that is not obtained in crores of births by brahmagyan, knowledge of Brahman, can be had by one single namabhas. Namabhas gives you immediate liberation. You immediately understand, I'm not a product of this world, I'm transcendental. There is Brahma Bhuta Prasannatmana Shochati Nakangshati. I don't have anything to worry about, to lament or hanker. And then he says, this is no exaggeration, this alone is the only true message. And here one more. There is no other dharma of jiva except kirtan, singing God. To the extent that one disbelieves bhakti, devotion, as denoted by kirtan or the holy name, in other words, those who think that all wants cannot be fulfilled by kirtan, to that extent are such people Gnostic, atheistical. So we have a very clear understanding, these are the devotees, these are the atheists. But he's giving a completely different understanding that even if I'm walking around in a saffron dress, as long as I don't have any faith in the holy name, I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. The degree of help one gives in the propagation of bhakti, as denoted by kirtan, is the sole measure of one's belief in God. If we look at ourselves, or we can look at other devotees, if we see how much do I propagate bhakti by kirtan, not something else, but by kirtan, chanting the name, by the hearing of devotional scriptures, by transcendental sound vibration, that's the proof how much I actually believe in God. Because that will reveal my true understanding of who God is and how He connects in this world. On the other hand, a man is a Gnostic. Gnostic means an atheist, disbeliever, to the extent that he obstructs kirtan. The Gaudiya Math does not ask to destroy all efforts of the world, but to deflect their course. That's something important we should note, that he didn't come to destroy anything, but he's just asking everything to be deflect, means to, in Deutsch, how you say in Deutsch, umleiten, kind of, not stop, but you say, okay, you go this way and then back home. Like in the traffic, you bring in another way. Yeah, so I'm going to end with this reading. I think it's nice to hear the direct words today, because it really gives us a darshan of Bhaktisiddhanta. We don't get maybe sometimes we get a sentimental understanding by seeing a picture, or even hearing some stories, but here the Vani Sangha is the most important, and we can see his mood, and there is many volumes of these articles available. If you like, I have a PDF on my computer, I can share it with you, you can read through, and we can open up for questions or comments if there are any. Feel free to leave if you want to, we are over time. But there is no breakfast, so that's the case. Yes.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for this wonderful lecture, for this darshan. When you mentioned that he says, how powerful the holy name is and how he's destroying all the problems, I could really see actually that last days I was quite disturbed. And then I started to, after 2 hours of really disturbance, I started to sing loudly, and it immediately gone away. Really, it's really magical. And if we just had a bit more faith, actually we will not be in anxiety anymore. Not that. Yes, Srila Prabhupada stresses so much that we should chant 24 hours, and we could just try to chant whenever it comes to our mind. It makes such a difference. And there are also so many stories where devotees were chanting and then the rain was falling again after 3 months or so. It's really, the holy name is everything actually.
Thank you for sharing. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you so much for this. We could have the view in something that we usually don't have. So I just wanted to ask you, I'm just thinking after hearing how, by passing the time, atmosphere is changing in the world. We could see, you just get me to understanding how that time in the Bengal, aristocracy from Great Britain and very cultured Bengalis were there, and I could imagine through one movie that I saw how it was looking, manners and everything, and helped me to understand why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj was dressing like that also. Gives me much more understanding now. And then I'm going through, when Prabhupada came to West, atmosphere was completely different in America. And now the times are changing. Who knows what will be one day, you know, with all these technologies. So now I try to imagine, for example, how Krishna consciousness will find the ways, you know, in maybe after 100, 200 years, we don't know. So it will stay, our approach to the world will stay the same. I mean, the Harinam, of course, but the way we are maybe dressing or everything, it will stay, or...
Okay, so you referring to Bhaktisiddhanta, how the audience he preached to, and now you understand why he also dressed in a certain way, he adjusted,
Yes.
and then Prabhupada again, he changed certain things, and the question, how will we adapt?
Does we will stay the same, everything what we are doing, or maybe, you know, Krishna will...
Yeah, it's a nice question. For me personally, I like to really read about the previous acharyas and in depth to see how did they preach, what was the environment they were in, what was happening. And I was saying how I'm reading this biography of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and now when we hear about Bhaktisiddhanta and we compare it with Prabhupada, we can see a difference, right? It's different way how he speaks, and the same message but in a different way. And again, if you look to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it's also different than Bhaktisiddhanta, but the same message. He, even though in Bengal, but he was in a previous time, it was a different situation, and he preached in a completely different way again. And if we go back and look at other acharyas, we see that they also, it was different. And we see in today's world, some of the followers of Srila Prabhupada, they also, again, change it. So naturally, time, place and circumstances, that's a principle which is mentioned in the scriptures, that's always there, because we always live in a changing world, so we have to adapt. And we can conclude that it will change more. But how, I don't know. And maybe there is also not one change only, or one manifestation only, but it can change in different ways. And we have to see also that not only the time, but time, place. Place means, even now we have Krishna consciousness manifesting in different ways in different places. What's working here maybe doesn't work in India or in America. Even you can even take America. It's a completely different story than Switzerland. Yeah, so that's what comes to my mind. Thank you. So have a nice day. Let's thank Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur for doing such a great sacrifice. Srila Prabhupada mentions in one purport that actually it's Bhaktisiddhanta's work that now we can take initiation into this sampradaya and we can practice, because in India that was not unthought of, that non-Brahmins, what to speak of mlechas who ate meat, can actually come to a level of worshipping the deities. And so, and Prabhupada says clearly that's Bhaktisiddhanta who took that trouble to fight. And who did he fight for? He fought for humanity, for all these living beings who are supposed to be engaged in Krishna's service. And yeah, we can think about how we are now benefiting from Bhaktisiddhanta today, and pray that we can become a loyal follower in the line which he made a major contribution, establishing mat, temples, and Prabhupada book distribution, clearly Bhaktisiddhanta's idea. So much of what we are doing and who we are is connected to Bhaktisiddhanta, and it's like our grandfather or great-grandfather, which, if we know him, we feel the connection and we know our background, our history, and this can give us a lot of empowerment to get the strength to also carry the same message, try to carry the same message with us and follow. Yes?
Just one thought that came to my mind, and yeah, he was stressing so much to be uncompromisable, like, to really be strict. And when I was at this Gaudiya temple in Mayapur, at this samadhi, I was also feeling such a presence of like strictness. Like, he wants you to be super strict, super focused actually. And yeah, when you were telling this, we should follow him, I was just thinking about it and what it actually means to really be so focused. And yeah, maybe you can elaborate on that a bit, because yeah, I just felt it so strong that he wants us to be like, yeah.
Yeah, the Chaitanya Mat, I think you're referring to, where his samadhis. I also, like you have an experience, I also made this experience. One time, I used to go there quite often, and then I even started doing some service, and then I would take prasadam sometimes there with the brahmacharis. And one time I took prasadam, the brahmacharis kind of looked at me in a way, you know, what are you doing? Because I didn't sit the way they usually sit. So not only do they sit in a certain sequence, meaning the senior is sitting here and then it goes from senior to junior, and there is a clear understanding how you're supposed to sit. But then what they did is they take their dhoti up till here and then they eat. And I never learned that. They do that out of cleanliness, because when you have the prasadam and you eat, there is always some, you know, and you will wear this the whole day. So I didn't do that, and they were kind of making fun of me. So yeah, they are very strict. And why? Because Bhaktisiddhanta trained them in a way. And till today it follows. He also, he asked to chant 64 rounds. I'm not sure if all of the devotees it's a question mark. Yeah, and that's also something I feel Prabhupada, he made some adjustments. Why? Because he wanted to implement Krishna consciousness in the West, and he needed to do something so that Westerners can accept. But I often personally reflect that it's also our duties of Srila Prabhupada's followers to be intelligent enough that when the teacher starts to teach you the ABC, that doesn't mean that you should always stay there, but that he's doing that, and he will not give you more at that moment, but that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be more, or you should not aspire to do more, but you should be intelligent enough to understand, okay, this is just meant to lead me further, and not to be fatalistic, saying that, no, Prabhupada gave this and that's it, and now we not chant a single round more than 16, and yeah, there's different topics that come to mind. So yeah, that's my understanding, that we should make progress and improve ourselves. But maybe then it's more on the individual. Not that all have to do much more, but maybe individually we have to see how we can grow.
Yeah, just to be very serious. Doesn't matter where you're standing, just to try to be very serious.
Okay, Prabhu, yeah.
I remember that Saraswati he asked 64 rounds from
Yeah.
Then he did business. And that's his strictness. It's very interesting because it's like he externally he showed it in very magic way sometimes, because as I remember he made that cigarettes for people who
Mm-hmm.
build the temple, build the map. It looks like opposite, not
Mm.
strictness, but he did. Or he, Jose, if I remember properly, he asked to cook meat for that English, like the authorities here, who comes to him. It's very not usual,
Mm-hmm.
not usual way to show this strictness. But yes, he was very strict, but it's like national very like not possible to understand the entire mind. But sometimes he did like looks like sometimes he like his behavior was like more like I understand, yeah, like cook meat,
Yeah, yeah.
very very.
But the purpose behind is always to give Krishna consciousness, and he was very aware with whom he's dealing, and he was most expert in Yukta Vairagya. In history maybe, if there will be anyone coming who was so revolutionary like Bhaktisiddhanta, and that's why he could even cook meat for people. Why? To preach Krishna consciousness. It's very high level. Very high level.
Good subject for meditation, like not to be so fanatic.
Yes.
As even Prabhupada didn't do like this. He was not so didn't cook meat.
But I remember there is a statement of Prabhupada, and I should actually find this, where he was maybe discussing with someone about, that was in the very beginning when he had this idea he wants to open an institution, and he already started in India with the League of Devotees. And at some point he was mentioning, and we will have the students come and live in our hostel, and agree, we will even cook, we will offer meat, but the only they have to make a commitment to read Bhagavad Gita every day and this and that. Somewhere I came across this. So meaning Prabhupada also, he understood that to bring someone to Krishna consciousness you can even provide meat. And that's difficult from a materialistic point of view. You think, how can you harm an animal? This is not good at all, but if it helps to develop Krishna consciousness, then. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati himself was the most strict person. We know that when he did Chaturmas, he would just eat 1 time a day rice, and he would eat it from the floor, like a cow, without salt, nothing. Living in a straw hut. So. Yeah, maybe we can end. If Yamuna has something, can also be after the class. Jai Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai, Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
His Grace Damodar Prasad.
zum Beispiel beim Geistschlag und